All right, I would like to welcome all of you to this new event organized by the Global Supply Chain Council. My name is Max Henry. I'm going to be your host for today's discussion. So as you know, we're going to be covering and talking and discussing all together the topic of logistics complexity in the APAC region. And for this new discussion, we have invited a number of panelists which are coming from the industry. We're going to be sharing their experience and their insights on that very interesting topic. Just want to remind all of you that, again, if you have any question, you can ask by clicking on the question mark button, which will open the Q&A tab. You can ask your question at any time. We prioritize those questions, and we'll make sure that we answer all the questions that are being asked by the audience during this call. We also just want to let you know that this discussion is just going to be 55 minutes. So again, if you have another meeting or another call starting at 5 p.m. Hong Kong, Singapore, no worries. We'll make sure to wrap up before the end of the hour. So without further ado, I'd like first to get started maybe with a round of introductions so you guys can understand exactly who are the panelists today. And maybe we'll get started with you, Aimee. If you could unmute yourself and just introduce yourself. Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. Yeah.
Yes, all good.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Max. Yeah, my name is Aimee Ong. I'm currently the global head of logistics for Syngenta. And I spent quite a number of years in APAC until about 7-8 years ago. I moved to Europe, so currently based in Basel, Switzerland. So I look after the whole of logistics landscape within one of the business units in Syngenta, and pretty much cover the area of transportation, warehousing, and also customs operations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Jim. Hi, Jim. If you could get closer, you look very far. If you could also rotate your camera, that would be a lot better for us. Yeah, much better. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, welcome.
Hi, Jim here. Good afternoon. I'm Global Procurement, CAPEX, Digital and Supply Chain Logistics Global for Equinix. Thank you, and look forward to having a good discussion. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Okay, next is Salman. Welcome, Salman. Go ahead. Yeah, make sure to unmute here.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Salman Nazir. I've nearly 30 years of experience in supply chain and procurement domain. I was in my previous role as head of executive director supply chain from Malaysia, Singapore. I was handling a supply chain worth 1.3 billion Swiss francs, so covering end to end. And last year I took a break, and these days I'm enjoying my life and letting you guys and see what you guys are up to. But anyway, working as a consultant and taking it easy for these.
Great. Thank you very much, Salman. Okay, next we have Musadik joining us as well. Welcome, Musadik. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Musadik Jahan. You can call me Jahan. Currently based in Thailand, I take care of the head of logistics for UD Trucks operations in Bangkok. Over the past around 20-25 years, got quite a lot of experience in APAC. I was in India for most of my career, but I was also in South Africa, but currently based in Thailand. And we deal, of course, with a lot of big supplier base, quite global, but at the same time, a lot of our suppliers are here in the APAC region. At the same time, we have KD facilities all across the world, and quite a lot of them in the APAC region as well. So that gives a good perspective both for the inbound as well as the outbound flow as well. Really looking forward to learning a lot from you guys as well and sharing experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Excellent. Let's move on to Salah. Welcome, Salah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Salah Shair. I'm the supply chain planning leader for Dow Chemicals. I'm located in Dubai. I have around over 20 years of experience between shipping lines, freight forwarders, and mainly petrochemicals and oil and gas companies. We have a lot of locations in Asia Pacific, and looking forward for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. And then Karthik as well joining us. Go ahead, Karthik. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Karthik, currently managing supply chain and logistics for Sennheiser in region. Overall, having 2 decades plus of year experience in various industries across various functions of supply chain, and looking forward to interactive session.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that round of intros. We might have one or two more persons joining us. I know they're still struggling to log in. So don't be surprised if you see some other people joining the discussion. Those are our next panelists, but let's see if they can make it or not. So if you're just joining us again, I want to remind all of you that this is going to be an interactive session. So please ask your question at any time. If you have an issue or a specific problem that you're trying to solve, you want to get the advice from our panelists on one aspect of your logistic operation within the APAC region, you can click on the question mark button, look at it at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll make sure to answer your question. So maybe we'll get started with quite a general question, and because Asia, APAC, but probably more important, Asia region is a very complex and very diverse region in the world, and can be complicated for a lot of logistic and supply chain professionals. But based on your experience, what do you see being the biggest challenge, or maybe the opportunity shaping logistic operation in this region? So maybe if you could pick one specific challenge or an opportunity that you guys are facing, and then we can just ask the group about this. Yeah, maybe anybody would like to start?
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Look, the Asia Pacific is not is a very diverse, as you said, and it's you can have from a very modern network in Australia, Japan, even Singapore, but then you start going to other places where you have very basic logistics network. So the diversity is there, and the logistics setup that you have to create, and that's the challenge for us, is that whichever market we are dealing with, we have to tailor a solution which fits the market. We cannot have one size fit all which goes across. Let's take an example of palletized loads. Now, you can't send anything to Australia without being in a perfect pallet. But you go to another market, you start doing something similar to a lesser developed market. You'll find that they don't even have the capacity to handle the palletized loads. So this whole scenario has to be looked at very closely, and the solution has to fit for each has to be fit for each market.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Karthik.
Yeah. So what I would like to take forward, someone said, is another critical aspect is culture, because you are in a diverse environment wherein at one point it's China, Hong Kong, Japan, wherein or Korea, wherein they are like having a culture of saying yes to whatever their senior talks about. And on the other side, you have Singapore, Australia, wherein they are more straight in their approach. So you need to always, as a leader, need to understand what they say in between the line, what is the message, and that actually work as an opportunity also, because in China, the way they do work versus the way Australia do work is completely different. And that helps to do the benchmarking on various activities. And it helped to bring in that synergy together with that benchmark.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, I may go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with my colleagues over here. Just to comment, especially in my space, which is in the agro-biotech space, so it's actually a very highly regulated environment. So especially in APAC, with all this diversity, diverse situations or environment that we are in, regulatory fragmentation is a major challenge, I would say. So each country in APAC has very different laws, import-export laws, and also in our space, we have this thing called phytosanitary requirements as well, very specific requirements to meet the way we ship seeds from one country to another. So we have to be very mindful. which also means that the product registration process also making it very difficult to standardize logistics in the region. So one opportunity from what I see is the use of technology. So that's now it's really quite a trend. Digitalizing our supply chain will actually be very helpful. Either we use blockchain-enabled track and trace solutions, or some sort of like central database in order to have all this ready data to help us to make data-driven decisions to know how we need to move things from one country to another. And the other bit, very quickly, is that I think quite a number of companies also looking into setting up regional distribution hubs. So in order to kind of centralize most of our stocks before we actually move it to the vicinity countries. So I would say this would pretty much be one of the major challenges and opportunity we can explore.
Yeah, thank you. I may, yeah, we're going to be talking probably a bit more about technology as well later on in this discussion. Yeah, so we'll come back on this. Yeah, Musadik, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I take it in two ways. I think if I look at presently how much I am as an OEM, how much I'm spending the maximum amount of time, the transportation scenario with the uncertainty right now, of course, that's very immediate. I'm talking about, that's really one of the things that is really taking a lot of my time and my team's time as well, trying to manage that with port congestions and quite a lot of things over there. But I think if I look a little bit broader picture and a bigger picture, I think I'm quite agree with most of my other panelists over here, where we talk about the diversity in terms of both the structure and the culture as well. I think structure, when you talk about the road infrastructures, the other things, the development that Salman talked about, and what Kartik talked about, the cultural part as well, the regulatory challenges and other things. I think those are probably the biggest thing is we are so diverse. I mean, we are 22% probably of the area of the world, but 60% of the world's population, but very, very diverse. So I think that's very interesting as well.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll get you quickly your view, Jim and Salah, before we move on to the next topic. Yeah.
No, I
If you
think
want my, go ahead, Jim.
go ahead. I think for me, it's really trying to be that bridge, right? Because we also have the new generation of supply chain expertise fresh from school, and sometimes now you also have the advance of Gen AI. So there's so much buzzword about digitalization, automation, and how do you balance between old ways of doing things and new ways of doing things. I think there is a melting point, and also the outcome and the output and the impact and the quality of the talents that we have will be very different, right? So challenges will always be there with the political, socio changes, but I think us as humans, how do we learn and work together with the IT, right? Technology.
Okay. Yes, Salah, yeah.
Yeah, just on top of all my colleagues has mentioned that to me, I believe the opportunity lies around regionalization and the diversification specifically. Due to the geopolitical tensions and trade disruptions, have encouraged companies to shift production from big markets like China to other market and invest in countries like the Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia, because these countries are becoming manufacturing hubs due to their cost advantage and growing infrastructure investment, on top of the technology that Amy referred to. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, so I want to again remind people to ask questions if you have any by clicking on the question button located at the bottom of the screen, and we'll take them as they come. Some of you mentioned the standardization aspect of logistics in such a diverse region, and I wanted to understand maybe if you could, some of you share your views, or how do you balance that? Because again, you're looking at very diverse market, very with their own set of customs and regulations, but at the same time, you need to standardize your processes when it comes to logistic and transportation and maybe warehousing. So how do you actually balance this? Yeah, Kartik.
Yeah. So basically, this is the point which we take care very well in last 3 years in our organization, is that all this organization initially was independent of parent company. So what we decided and did is we made this as a connected company with metric structure. And this was the first target. Second, as far as supply chain or logistic is concerned, is to look at the existing supply chain network of warehousing and see that where there is opportunity to restructure as per the geographies of manufacturing and sale. Third point, what we did in recent past is that look around at whether we can shift our centralized from existing locations to elsewhere. And fourth and most critical, the second term of Mr. Term in US or geopolitical tension across countries is that can we have alternative base in terms of manpower or control tower who can manage this very well?
Okay. Thank you very much, Karthik. Anybody else on this topic? Yeah, Musadik, yeah.
Yeah, it's however much we love, of course, that we would like to have standard processes. It doesn't work. So what we try to form is more have a little bit more flexibility in the standards. I'll give you a typical case. I think, for example, when we export to KD markets, I mean, the requirements are quite different in most of the countries, and Indonesia is very different. What the definition of a KD itself is so very different in all these countries. So how to navigate it? So what we try to do is have two or three very basic models that we normally work in, and the rule book is quite similar. It's just that minor differences that we need to do, and also to understand. I think what we basically need is a broader standard, and then of course after that we have to customize it based on the country requirements. So I think that is what we have been trying and playing, especially if I talk more about the KD experience on the outbound side. I think it's been playing quite well. And other than that, of course, the main thing in this particular thing is also to look at local expertise and not to just generalize and try to impose it on everybody as well. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. Yes, Samanya.
So there are two things that we were doing in Nestle, and one was because of our SAP background, everybody on being on the same platform. We had a master database where every metrics was measured for each operation, and periodically we would benchmark each other and see who is where we have opportunities, which like if you're talking about large warehouses. So if you're talking about the top five large warehouses, we could actually benchmark against each other. Okay, who is doing better in which area? And this was one opportunity to standardize operations. But it required a very extensive database to support this kind of study. The other one, which was a very basic one, was use of CCU, container capacity utilization. So it was both the responsibility of the receiving market and the exporting market to make sure that the container is full. And trust me, I have seen containers go out where orders come with 30% CCU. That yeah, this is what the demand is, and which is a genuine reaction order from the market. But if we are focusing on standardizing one matrix that is maximizing the container, not shipping air, I think both sides are then have a common goal. It doesn't matter whether there is diversity or not, but the KPI is common, and they can all focus on that one particular KPI, forgetting everything else. Well, each market will then have to handle how to maximize this capacity utilization.
Okay, thank you very much, Samanya. Anybody else would like to comment on this? We have some questions already in the Q&A, so I'd like to take them as they come. If you want, yeah, I may.
Yeah, pretty much a quick add on top of all the comments over here. If I draw my previous experience in the oil and gas company, in order to find a way to strike the balance, it's also kind of the use of the strategic hub and spoke distribution model over here. So a lot of this is trying to drive global supply chain efficiencies, but at the same time, which means like kind of like reduce the lead time, trying to bring products from manufacturing sites from the other side of the globe, And the idea of using this regional hub or DCs, I think in the past, we used to have one in Singapore and then the other one in Dubai, and of course, the rest in other parts of the world, pretty much trying to maintain the flexible last mile distribution models, while at the same time being able to standardize the way we bring the stocks over from US or Europe. And I actually find that pretty effective in order to not having flow of products moving across the world all over the place, but more like identifying the key processes within the end-to-end supply chain flow, which are the ones that we can standardize more, but potentially all these international shipments or inter-regional shipments coming to that the last mile will be the one that cater to the individual needs for each and every country within APAC. Yeah.
You mentioned that I think it's a good point that we've covered this idea of having regional hubs, regional DC for many years now, and I think companies have been looking into this for quite some time. And of course, COVID came in, they use, and China was isolated during that time. What do you see that model works now? From my impression, I see companies now sometimes using a kind of a Southeast Asia hub, could be probably in Singapore, and then they have another hub maybe for Northeast Asia, who could be in Hong Kong, in China, given the fact that also things are happening in China. Is that still the case? Do you guys agree that you need to have two hubs, or can one hub, cover the entire region? Yeah. What's your view on this? Yeah. Yeah, Kartik.
So yeah, if I may, so I would cover Brian as well as Shane question along with this question because it is relevant. So we go with one hub model, but what we do simultaneously that every country do not need the local warehouse. Like South Korea being small territory, we do hub and spoke, as I may say. But in other countries, we have small facilities wherein we store the goods and then we supply it in the local market. So that answers Brian's question. On Shen question, how do you deal with unpredictable customs and delays in APAC, which is quite often these days? What we do is it is more to do with better planning, sales planning, and operational planning of the inventory. That's what we do, and not only in this company, in previous company also. Because if you are import dependent, then you need to make sure that what are your ABC classification, how your stock levels are, and if you maintain it pretty well by all the means, whether it is air, courier, or sea, then you would make sure that any point of time you have stock in warehouse, in transit, as well as origin.
Okay. All right, good. We're going to cover this question. So before we go into the other question from the Q&A, anybody else would like to comment on this regional hub idea? Maybe share your own experience in running this. Do you have one or two hubs? Yes, Amanya.
Maybe from a food and bev perspective, this hub and spoke model covering multiple countries becomes very difficult. And for one very simple reason, because each country has different regulations, and especially the certificate of origin, all these things come into play. So if you bring it into, for instance, bring something into Malaysia and want to export it to transship to Singapore, then there are the legalities and regulatory constraints are quite significant. However, if you have a manufacturing operation in Malaysia or in Singapore, and in Thailand, and you're supplying to each of these countries, it's quite easy because you can still manage, do the cross border and do it one time without having a lot of difficulty. So food and bev is a peculiar set of regulatory constraints.
Okay. All right. Let's take some questions now because I want to be able to answer most of them before the end of this discussion. So maybe we'll start with this one. Karthik already kind of responded to it, but I wanted to get your views from the others on that custom issue, which has been asked by Shane. So how do you deal with unpredictable customs and delays in this region? Anybody would like to answer this? Yeah, Musadik, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is quite common. I think in almost a lot of countries over here as well. And I think to a large extent, the more the uncertainty, the more the unpredictability, inventory is possibly something that is directly proportional. I think Karthik probably touched upon it as well when he talked about saying A, P, C classifications and other things. We also do the same as well, and then try to look at what are the different classifications that we have, which are the ones which are probably line stoppers that we call it, and if we realize that it's some countries and then we see the trend that there might be custom delays and other things, we play around a little bit with the safety stocks that we try to manage in those areas. But at the same time, I think with customs also, I think a lot of times it is prone to interpretations and other things. So we also try to have our custom compliance and other teams to be really abreast with exactly what is required, and then so that in order so the early stage only we know exactly what the requirements are. If there are some things which are changing, we try to take care of everything right at the beginning so that we don't get into major delays after that. Yep.
Thank you, Musadik. Yeah. Anybody else on the customs, which is always a hot topic for a lot? Yeah, Ameya.
Yeah, I was hoping to kind of share like a magic pill over here to solve the solution, and which I'm not. I would say I think it's still at this point from what I see, or at least my experience within the team, is still pretty much depend on the expertise of the teams over here within supply chain or logistics, which means like we need to definitely identify the right skill sets or expertise, especially in the custom space, to be able to stay on top of things going around, so that we will then be able to plan accordingly and then take the necessary actions. But at the same time, my colleague already mentioned a bit like, yeah, there's a need to have a function or close connection to the global trade compliance function. At least in my space, customs and trade compliance is actually separate. And trade compliance is the one that really scan the market and stay abreast with the changes, especially what's going on in US now, and stay connected with the operations team to make sure that we always digest all this information and take the necessary action. When I say that, additionally, I want to add on is that it would be very helpful to have a platform or the way that we collect all this centralized data, that with any changes in the market, for example, like with the tariff war that is going on now, so by having all this first-hand information, can we know exactly what is the impact directly to the business? So a lot of times in the past, it's that we are still trying to manually source for information from our ERP platforms. That could take a bit too much time, and then we may not be agile to respond accordingly. So that will actually position us better in facing all these unpredictable delays within the region itself.
Okay, that's a good point. Actually, I wanted to ask you about this. Do you feel that technology has improved in the past few years, especially on custom? Because we've talked a lot about e-customs. There's been a lot of integration, new programs done by different governments across Asia. But do you feel that you have a technology now to kind of better manage those customs and trade compliance issue within APAC, or it's still very messy right now? Yes, Abanya.
I would say, despite all the technology, the situation remains fluid. And it is, at the end of the day, it still comes down to the custom officer's interpretation. One of the very simple and practical tool that we use was we would never bring a product or a new ingredient or a material through an less used port. It had to come through a main port because the people over there, the customs teams over there were much more experienced and were more competent to handle the case, those imports, rather than going to, for instance, Tanjung Pelepas. You would find the custom officer is not familiar with the product or the classification, and that could create unnecessary complications. So this is, other than what the other questions point which was just raised, that we need to be abreast all the time. And unfortunately, you cannot be abreast all the time. We don't know when a change has happened. And this is where both the importing and exporting market have to be very diligent in communicating the changes, because otherwise this could lead to some serious concerns in terms of block shipments.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We have Rubia, which is joining us, who is a bit late, who was wanted to be part of our discussion. Welcome, Rubia. I know that you just coming in. Maybe you just wanted to say hi quickly. I hope your microphone is working.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was in between a meeting, so that's why I joined late. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible. If you just could quickly introduce yourself, and then maybe you can catch up with our discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So this is Rubaya from Bangladesh, and I'm working in the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross. I'm working as the Deputy Logistics Country Manager here. And yeah, I'm looking after the end-to-end supply chain and warehouse operations over there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rubia. Okay, if you can stay muted for now, and then if you want to answer, you can unmute, you can raise your hand and take part in the discussion. Salah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, maybe you wanted to add something on that custom issue.
Yeah, just on technology and customs. I believe Salman mentioned it very well that custom clearance, it really depends on the interpretation. But when it comes to technology, I believe everything will change, not even in 2 years, probably before end of this year. The revolution of artificial intelligence and how companies react to it is very important. I believe there was one question on the chat is, where do we start? So I can tell you that the first thing that we need to do is to do our own in-house data cleansing, because as always, when it comes to a system, if you put wrong information in, you will have wrong information out. And we can build on what others did. So for example, relying on the AI-powered analytics is optimized routing business based on the real-time traffic data. And I can give you an example for the very famous e-commerce platform like Alibaba. They're now using something called the Kenya Smart Logistics, which use an AI-enabled warehouse to design smart routing system that reduce the overall delivery lead times. And this improved their lead times by around 35% in the China market. The second thing, also an example of the blockchain, that the blockchain enhanced the transparency by creating records of transaction across supply chain. And there's also another example is the IBM Food Trust. They partnered with Asian food exporters to use blockchain for tracking perishable goods from farm to consumer. So my opinion is just to build on what others already started and start by doing the in-house data cleansing, so we can enhance and advance our use of technology. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Salah. This is a question I wanted to keep for later. You already start to answer it, but no worries. Let's move on to the next topic. We'll come back to AI because it's a big topic as well. So I want to get for the next question. This is a question from Brian, which I think is interesting. Is can one 3PL support the entire region? What do you think? Yeah, there's been a lot of talks about, how do you manage 3PLs in such a diverse market? What is your experience in this? Can, some 3PLs, of course, got bigger. There's been also mergers and acquisitions happening in that space. So can you now work with just one 3PL to help you out? I see still some companies kind of using a preferred 3PL for the entire APAC business. But it's still complex and sometimes it doesn't make sense. So what's your view? Yeah. You want to start? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty quick comment over here. I definitely would incline to say no. If we are trying to have one player cover the entire region. In our space, or at least in our space, this is the wish. But then at this point, we are still trying to work with major 3PLs in order to cover key markets over here. And for Syngenta, we also explored, or at least like implemented, the concept of 4PL. So with that, we might have one global 4PL working with some of those major 3PLs in the regions, or to cover the region itself. However, this concept 4PL, we managed to roll it out for majority of the regions, but for APAC, it is pretty difficult. And of course, I'm referring to the secondary distribution market, which is a lot more to do with the last mile distribution over there. Yeah, we are still pretty much looking at identifying the really strong ones, especially with the main experience covering specific regions itself, like ANZ, China market, India. Even India, typically we work with like quite a number of 3PLs over there instead of just one covering the whole big region. So that will be my experience so far.
Okay, good. Yeah, Saman, yeah, and after Salah, yeah.
Salah, please.
Saman, go ahead, yeah.
Okay. Look, I tend to agree. This is having one 3PL supporting entire region can be a high risk proposition. It depends on the capability also, because APAC is wide, is a large area, and not every 3PL can provide the same level of competence, infrastructure, capability in every location, depending on how many locations you're talking about. And then there are other potential issues over there also, is the relationship within in different countries. So if a relationship goes bad in one market, now what do? On one side, you're a preferred supplier customer or a 3PL. On the other side, you get blacklisted in another market. Now, either you support your colleagues and you say, okay, everybody exits this one, or you say it puts the organization in a very awkward situation. So it's better to have, yes, preferred 3PLs, but you work not exclusively with them, but have a combination of 3PLs you can leverage. Otherwise, also the risk of dependency also becomes very high.
Okay, yeah, Salah, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, I believe my colleagues covered this very well, but in my case, using one third party distributed only for different areas all over the world. But when it comes to local transporters and warehouses, we need to have separate contracts, and we ask the freight forwarder to manage these contracts in a way to monitor the performance. Having one third party logistics in one activity could be also has its own advantages from a control standpoint and also from preferential rates. But of course, as all my colleagues mentioned, you cannot really depend on one third party logistics to cover all the services all over the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I just want to add a quick
Yeah,
one.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah, besides risk and your appetite for risk, and also maybe even talk about total cost consideration. I think in this market right now, whether you single source, that means you take only one 4PL or 5PL to do everything, versus multiple source. You also want to talk about better control and consistency. So how do you control? I mean, it's better control, right? When you only have one neck to choke. But then again, if you're talking about sustainability and trying to be an advocate for better technology, how do you standardize things, etc. I think it's always good to have a balance, right? Certain countries, maybe you can cluster them under one. So maybe like the Greater China or maybe ASEAN under the same, like a road network, right? Between China, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. The other one is also about the cost considerations, right? Because obviously, if you have only one neck to choke, you have probably greater scale and greater economies to kind of cost down. But then again, that has upside and downside as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so let's move on to the next question. This is, yeah, so we talked about AI earlier, but yeah, I wanted to kind of get each of you thought about AI, Gen AI, which has been a very hot topic, obviously, for the past year. Are you guys using some kind of AI tools or solution in your current logistics operations right now? Is it something that you are adopting or you are testing? And again, specifically on logistics, maybe warehousing or transportation. Is there anything that you guys are doing? Yes, Salmania.
I know an example which my colleagues in Pakistan have done. They've used AI-driven telematics and camera technology to monitor driver behavior. So, just to give you a context, there's a very large fresh milk collection operation in Pakistan. Probably they're talking about 200-300 vehicles which are operating on remote roads throughout the collection district, and to continuously monitor that how they are behaving or what their driving behaviors are. So this is something which our colleagues did it a couple of years, I think 2 years back, where they installed cameras, got the drivers buy-in. So every time they see something, seat belt is not on, is not fastened, overspeeding is happening, the use of cameras or phone during driving, such kind of acts are picked up by the AI, and immediately the trigger is flashed that there is a potential hazard which is taking place. So hazardous condition is being created. So this is an example where AI has been used in logistics within Nestle.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, for safety. Yeah. Anybody else can share? Yeah, maybe one of you early test or something interesting that you saw. Yeah, Kartik. Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it is more to do with route planning. That's easy to do. Is it's not just you always who need to invest because having AI at the niche stage, it involves a lot of cost. So you having distribution partner who help you bring in this technology on a cost sharing basis, help you to find out what are the best routes, uh, what are the routes which you can make as part of your milk run, where you can make part load, where you can make full load. So yeah, I can say that we can start from here.
This is just trucking, right? You're not putting sea freight or air freight into consideration right now, right? Just
Sea freight,
domestic
air
trucking.
freight, yeah, we have already there, wherein we have
Okay.
partners application, which help us from the day we release the picking until it reaches to the destination port. Every time we get a pop-up of any delay, because that app is linked with shipping line, freight forwarders, airlines,
Yes. Yeah.
and that work as a bridge and provide us on app as well as on email updates about each shipment. So when you go on map of globe, you just click on any region and it would show how many shipments are reaching port in how much time, how much delay, what is the reason for the delay, everything.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. Musadik, I maybe Rubia as well. If you have any, cool trial that you've done or you've seen happening in logistic and using AI. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge topic, and in fact, we use the term AI quite loosely, pretty much here. I guess maybe in general, like in terms of deploying digital solutions in logistics. Yes, in our space, I think one of the key challenge is to be able to allow very seamless exchange of data between our ERP system and all the 3PLs and 4PLs that we work with. That itself is really a very huge challenge. I wouldn't say AI per se, but we do have already implemented like a middleware solution to pretty much connect us and 10, 20 partners that we work with, of course, the top ones over there across different regions, so globally speaking. So that itself has already gone through the transformation over here. And now the teams also started looking into like deploying real-time tracking visibility for transportation for our shipments, which actually allows us to know exactly all the different milestones. So this is very helpful in terms of understanding where the shipments are so that we can respond accordingly when things happen. So it's actually allowed the team to plan the resources better to make sure that we always stay communicated with our customers in case something comes up during in transit for the shipments, and also with real time tracking, which also means that the solutions allow the consume of various data. It could include like geopolitical situations that will impact the shipments, and also potentially what is happening, like weather situations or vessel schedule changes and all these things. So the solution will also help us to predict what will be the right ETA, and it's real time enough to also allow us to know early enough in order to take the necessary steps forward. So I would say, I think I want to answer very quickly the last part of the question, where do we start? Apart from what my colleague already mentioned about data cleansing, I fully agree. And I would say that it will take a lot of energy in that space. So I would say in parallel, it will be good to do two more things as well. First is to listen to your business, involve the right stakeholders, understanding where the pain points are, where the challenges are. And very importantly, with that, and also by the time with some level of data cleansing, we should have sufficient information or data to run some POCs or pilots. So identifying good solution providers, there are just tons of them out there. Find a few of them that you find that you see the fit, and then perhaps try to run some pilots, and then hopefully that will allow us to understand the benefit before we can scale it further to other countries or other regions. Yeah.
And just to ask you, I may, do you see the your 3PLs pushing some kind of AI tools or features in with to you, or are they still kind of a little bit behind on this?
Yeah, a mix depends on the maturity level of the 3PLs that we work with as well. There are times that they take the initiative to be proactive in terms of like suggesting additional tools to do so. At the same time, I would say a lot of times we are the ones that are trying to push for that. Yeah, so it's a mix over here.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Musadi can go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I think on a slightly bigger scale, I think we are also, as an organization, we are also talking a lot about, we have an existing data infrastructure in terms of an IT infrastructure. The plan is how to get some of the outputs and then have an AI layer to it. That's probably where we are going through. But I think where I would like to come in is where do we start? I think to me a good point of starting was the pain points, and start small and celebrate those small wins. Like, for example, forklift safety, very small thing, but has big impacts. If there is something behind, if it senses a person, it should stop. Those kind of things are something that we are slowly implementing just to give people a little bit more trivialize the part of AI, because otherwise you sometimes thinks that AI is big, too big, you need a big budget and other things. So yes, of course, that is one thing from the organization point of view, but the mindset point of view, I think, is something that we need to play. Very simple, probably very, very trivial is I have encouraged a lot of my colleagues, probably a lot of people who do not speak English because they communicate in this, to just use Copilot and then try to, and some of their languages or the emails have become so good, they've become very confident as well. So small things, but I think the moment you see that, oh, this is AI, I think that's something that helps in at least building a mindset. At least I basically answer from where do we start,
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Rubia, maybe you wanted to also share, what you take on AI, and maybe if you are using it already within your operations. Yeah.
Yes. So what I wanted to share that currently we are using the vehicle tracking as well as mentioned earlier as Mumbai, and are focusing on our SOP and our all of our manual documents, summarizing using the AI and AI searching as well. And I would really like to take the point from the previous speaker for using the Copilot or ChatGPT for our language improvement as well. So that will be really beneficial for us because we are also working with multiple people and multilingual peoples. So that will help us a lot. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Let's take on the next question. We only have 5 more minutes, so I won't be able to get your feedback. And this is another big topic that has been, explored by a lot of companies in the past few years is sustainability. So the question is from Yanisa, how do you balance sustainability with keeping logistic cost under control? That's a good question. Anybody would like to start here? Big topic. We got 5 more minutes, so I'd like to get as much as we can the feedback from all of you. Yeah.
So
Maybe
if
I start the rolling.
Yeah, Jim.
yeah, Jim, Jim, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the low-hanging fruits for the organization here, especially when the data centers, we actually work with a carbon neutral party that does carbon exchange, and we work with them on a subscription basis. So basically, sometimes you can't have it all. Of course, you can still work on your different elements like using renewables or using carbon neutral equipments, etc., or going into EVs. But in these days, to have a low and short runway so that you can so-called have more impact, right, and more returns. We do work with, there's an exchange known as CIX, Carbon Renewables Inter-Exchange, is actually organized by the Singapore and DBS government. The other way that we also do is instead of crediting all our carbon footprints, we do work with alliances. So sometimes our clients, let's say it's Microsoft or AWS or even Micron or NVIDIA, we work with them as an alliance so that we can together sharpen each other and work out all the different challenges. The last point is really diversity, because today we do not just park it under scope 1, 2, 3 and say that this is your baby and that is my baby. We tend to co-share it with our internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders, so that when we go into a partnership for achieving sustainability, in order to neutral the logistics cost or the rollout cost, we have both a combination of private and public partnerships, right? In short, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, anybody else on this? Yeah. Yeah, Karthik, yeah.
Yeah. So basic what we do is making understand the whole team, sales and marketing, to have more and more use of sea shipment instead of air always or express, with robust planning. That is the basic what we do, and that giving us results. Second, in consideration to what Jim exactly said, wherever possible, where you have the tools to measure what carbon footprints you have, use that public domain, else at least get the data from other big players in the industry, that how they are measuring, like in India or in Malaysia or in Indonesia. We are doing it manually. That basis some standard established, we use that data in Excel and measure with truck, with how many pallets, how much kg of load, how much is the carbon footprint, and then we share that on monthly calls. That helps to create that awareness in the organization, that oh, we are using so much of carbon footprints, let's see what are the ways to control it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to add? Yeah, I may. Yeah.
If I look at the question, when we use the word balance, sometimes carries a little bit of feeling that it's trying to compete between sustainability and cost. Maybe this was the case much earlier, many years ago. I think now internally, I actually had the opportunity to drive this agenda. So pretty much set off the green logistics program here. Over time, we kind of switched the mindset a little bit to share with the stakeholders that sustainability and logistics costs actually do go hand in hand. So they are not really all the time in compete of each other. So it's just a matter of like there's a need to spend energy and also create new expertise to know how to measure and also report our carbon footprint, for example, or energy consumption and all. A lot of times when we have been doing logistics cost management or optimization work over here, it's pretty much kind of linked to reducing our carbon footprint overall. For example, consolidation of our cargoes as much as possible, and also changing the use of intermodal shipments or changing from ocean to air. So a lot of this is quite fundamental. It's just that now with the addition of additional metrics over there to help us to bring it back to commercial team, planning team, to make sure that we plan better, we forecast better, and then that will also overall help us to maintain our supply chain costs overall, and then at the same time help to save the environment. But of course, additionally, should we want to go further, push the agenda further to adopt new technology, for example, biofuel, of course, this is something that we need to work with cross-functional teams to come up with a business case. Now that companies are being pressured by consumers, customers, that we need to showcase how we are dealing with the sustainability topic over here. So I would say over time, it will definitely go into a space where we will definitely bring in additional market share or whatnot while the company continue to kind of like advance this area more and more. So to me, I actually see the need to kind of create the awareness is very one good point by Karthik. And then also very importantly is to shift the mindset a little bit here. Yeah, this is not negotiable now more and more. And it's not something that is evil over here. In fact, it helps us to create new markets. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ame. Okay, so it's the end of this discussion. I know Salah and Salman, you wanted to react on this topic. What I like to do is, offer you the chance to do this maybe in the next session. We had many other topics that we didn't get to cover during discussion. 55 minutes is always too short. So I made a promise earlier that I will release you before the end of the hour. I want to keep that promise. So thank you again for your understanding. So sorry, Salah and Salman, but I will invite you again for this next discussion. I want to thank all of you, Jim, Aimee, Salman, Musadik, Salah, Karthik, and Rubia, for being with us today, for taking your time to share your insight. Like I say, we'll do this again. And I also want to thank you, the audience, for all those great questions. So thanks again for your time. And we look forward again to see you at our next event. Thank you, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Have a great
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Wonderful discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.